This podcast replay is brought to you by Choice Mortgage Bank. Fixed mortgage rates under 3.5%. Military veterans, 0 down, 100% financing. Call the owner's cell phone right now. Michael Codsey, 561-441-2730. That's 561-441-2730.
We promised you, as always, every week at this time, we talk to the great Michelle Kaufman from the Miami Herald. You can follow her on Twitter at Kauf Sports. You can catch her daily work there. As always, she covers Inter like nobody else because nobody else is covering Inter. That's true also, by the way. Michelle, when do you get competition? Like the week that they start? Is that when all the other outlets will stop being lazy?
I don't know. Hopefully nobody. Hopefully I'll just own it. Hopefully I will own this feed, and I will be the only place, the one, the go-to. Well, I will be the go-to anyway. I mean, I am competitive in that way. After 33 years in this business, I try to stay on top of things and do things the right way, and also provide reliable coverage, not just throw out there every rumor, because as you know, journalism, quote unquote, journalism now is not what it was when we started. So when we started, and which is what I teach my students at I teach a sports journalism class, you're supposed to verify things before you spread them out to the world. You're supposed to make sure that what you're saying is true, or at least as close to truth as you can find. And nowadays it's just like, social media, people throw crap out there and see if it sticks. And if it doesn't stick, they're like, oh, I was wrong. It's not this, it's that, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, nobody has any credibility in my mind. Not nobody, but to me, there's a real difference between sports journalists who have credibility and sports journalists who don't. So my goal is always to be somebody that you can rely on, that if I post it, there's some truth to it. There's something. I have checked on it. I've talked to people inside, people who actually are in the know, not just, fulano and mengano, as my mom always says, fulanito y menganito. I don't just talk to fulanito and menganito. I try to be on top of things. So hopefully you're going to get excellent Inter Miami coverage from the Miami Herald, no matter who else jumps on board at the last minute.
Yep, no, I know we'll get excellent coverage from you. There's no doubt about that. Now, I'm wondering, Michelle, and this is a little bit off the beaten path, and then it isn't. The Marlins made a move a couple days ago to acquire 2 players to try and help their – and one of the guys actually is kind of intriguing that you actually could build on, and he's got some talent. I'm wondering if the green light finally went on with the Marlins and they figured out that things are bad for them and they're about to get worse next summer when Inter takes over, because they're going to dominate the headlines. They're going to dominate the buzz. They're going to dominate because they're going to try to win, actually, and they're going to bring names, something that organization doesn't understand, or do they? Do you think maybe something went on back there that they realize that they've got to do something? Because if they don't, the team you're covering is going to absolutely run them over and own the Summers.
Yeah, I mean, I think they if they didn't think about that, they definitely should if it just happened by accident. But, definitely their competition, the Marlins have not had any competition in the summer here because, there's no college sports in the summer, and there's no football, and there's no basketball, and there's no hockey. So, the Marlins have pretty much been able to own whoever's a sports fan, a real diehard sports fan in Miami that wants to follow something in the summer. The Marlins is all there is. But now there's going to be a choice. And, I can tell you just based on, I just posted a story today, the way Jorge Mas does things and David Beckham, they showed up yesterday unannounced at the construction site. There are 400 construction workers there busting their butts to try to get that thing done. And David Beckham and Jorge Mas pull up unannounced and surprise them all. And they hosted a lunch, a catered lunch for the 400 workers. And they spent 2.5 hours there with the workers. And David took pictures with probably all 400 of them, signed autographs, and gave a little speech about how important their work is and that none of this would be possible without their manual labor and their passion and their hard work. And, all those workers, I talked to the guy in charge of the construction project. I quoted him in my story, John Lockerbie. And he said that, first of all, he got a tear in his eye. And he said, second of all, when those people all went back to work after David and Jorge left, he said they were super motivated. They were like fired up to go start up the jackhammers again. You know what I mean? Because they're doing everything the right way. I can't guarantee that they're going to win. I don't know. But so far, what I've seen, they are doing everything the way, the way it should be done on a professional level if you're running a professional sports franchise. So I think they're going to raise the bar for the Marlins because they're going to be, they're very, very tech savvy. For example, all of their social media, if you follow Inter Miami on social media, the second a player is signed, there's already a really cool video posted and this and that. It's actually makes it difficult for me because I'm kind of competing with the team in some ways now, which didn't used to be the case, but that's another journalism conversation for later. But, the teams now put out their own stuff and try to generate interest and buzz. They don't need the media to be the intermediary the way we used to be. So now the relationships have changed a little, but I think Inter Miami is doing a really good job of creating buzz, of getting the information out there, and they don't even have a coach or their well-known players yet. I mean, they are still going to sign a coach and two well-known players sometime in this month, and that's going to raise everything even to a higher plane. So I think the Marlins definitely need to be paying attention, and I think that Inter Miami, by its very existence and the way they're doing things, is going to raise the bar for the Marlins for sure. It's not they're stupid.
Yeah,
it's not they're stupid.
Exactly. No. I mean, you can't be that ignorant and not notice what's going on in this town and what's going to end up developing. And maybe 20, 30 years ago, the town wasn't nearly as ready to be a big supporter of football. But the landscape has changed. The demographics have changed. And I think that it's going to be an absolute monster this time around. And the Marlins better brace themselves because if they don't do their part, they are going to be very lonely in that stadium. Michelle, the team did add more players this week. Tell us a little bit more about that.
The team has 18 players now, believe it or not. I'm actually, I'm going to be doing something soon to introduce the readers. I've been doing, they sign this guy, they sign this guy, they sign this guy, but they have 18 players now. We're still waiting for the two big names, but they've got 18 guys on the roster. Obviously, some of these players are reserve players. The way it works in MLS is you can take up to 30 on your roster and then 18 for game days. So 18 is your game day roster, and then you've got 12 guys who are reserve players, And so some of these guys are reserve and some are not. But the big one that they really signed that could be a key player for sure is the goalkeeper, Luis Robles from the New York Red Bulls. He's an older guy, 35, very, very experienced. He has played 238 MLS games in 8 seasons, 72 shutouts. He was named the MLS Goalkeeper of the Year in 2015. So, it was 4 years ago, but still, he's a really good, talented goalkeeper. He's super excited about coming here. So he's a guy that, you definitely want to keep an eye on him. His father's Puerto Rican and his mother's Korean. So he fits right in with the blended cultures of South Florida. And he played in the Bundesliga before he came to the Red Bulls. So, he's a guy that has a lot of experience. Today, actually, they signed another guy, John McCarthy, who's another, like a backup goalkeeper. So he came out of, he had been playing in, where was he playing? USL. He played MLS, and he was playing USL with the Tampa Bay Rowdies. One season he played with them. Before that, he was in MLS with Philadelphia Union. So, they're filling up their roster with all of the role players, let me put it that way. And then the two stars are still TBA. And according to Jorge Mas, they're working on it. They've got contract negotiations. They're working on the final stuff. I did hear yesterday another player's name that was being linked to the team is Ignacio Fernandez. They call him Nacho. He's a central midfielder for River Plate. So I don't know if that also means that, if Marcelo Gallardo is the coach and he brings his top midfielder here, that would be interesting. But he's a guy that I saw. He's 29 in the prime of his career. Nacho Fernandez, midfielder for River Plate, a possibility to come here. And we're just waiting. I mean, I am on holding pattern. I told you last week that by this Wednesday we'll have a coach to talk about, and we still don't. So from what I'm gathering from my conversations with people is that, they are in negotiations, but there are some little snags, hiccups of things that the coach wants, and it may not be in total agreement with what the team wanted to do, whether it be in timing of when the announcement is made or whether it be salaries of staff, things like that. So they're working things out. I think it's going to be imminent. I think it's soon in the next, days, because they keep telling me that by the end of December, there will be a coach and these two players will be in place and they're going to basically have much of their roster by then. If they get two more players, that brings them to 20. And then they've got the college draft and, they'll reach 30 pretty quickly. So things are happening behind the scenes. And it's exciting. And like I said, once they get these names in, I think the buzz is going to just go up. It's going to be up to another level.
Now, Michelle, and we're talking with Michelle Kaufman from the Miami Herald, our Inter-Miami report here weekly here on the program. Michelle, when you look at the two scenarios, and you follow it more than I do, obviously, but I'm just getting a feeling that they got their coach and they are in negotiations, but they really don't have both players down in any kind of an agreement, that they're still trying to figure that out because maybe it's become a bigger hurdle than they expected. I don't think. Do you believe that?
I think from speaking to people in the know, who are really in the know, like Jorge Mas and people at that level.
Not Fulanito? You didn't talk to Fulanito? Come on.
I didn't talk to Fulano or Mengano, neither one of them, but or his brother Mengano. But what happens is that they are playing with the big boys, quote unquote. Inter Miami is trying to go after players that some really big clubs in Europe are also going after. And so when that happens, as you know, in sports negotiations, if Inter Miami was the only team bidding for someone, or it was just Inter Miami versus other MLS teams, that guy would already be here and already be living in his home and voting in the city of Miami elections. But, now that Miami is aiming high, this ownership group aims high, okay? And they are going after players that other teams in Europe are going after, which means the price tag goes up. And those agents use, they use it as leverage. They use it as leverage. It's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, he wants to go to Miami, but he's also getting a call from Juventus, or he's also getting a call from Atletico Madrid, or he's also getting a call from, Everton or Arsenal or whatever. And once those level of teams are involved, the money, the price tag goes up. I heard the other day that Cavani, that the LA Galaxy had some interest in Cavani or something, but he was asking for $11 million a year, and the top player last year, Zlatan, I think, made $7. So, the demands from the players that are getting offers in Europe are going to be very high. And the question is going to be, how high is Inter Miami willing to go? And will they be able to steal one or two of these players from these really, really wealthy established teams in Europe?
Are they looking to pay a transfer fee, or are they looking to find guys that are straight up free agents?
Well, obviously straight up free agents is better, because they are investing $100 million on Fort Lauderdale. That's not even that's their temporary, their temporary home. And yes, their training facility, which is their permanent training facility, but they're investing $100 million just in that Fort Lauderdale facility. And then they're going to invest hundreds of millions more in Miami Freedom Park, assuming that goes through. So they are investing tons of money in all the infrastructure. So players' salaries, it's not that they want to go cheap, but if they have a chance to get a top quality player who's a free agent, that's going to be a lot cheaper than having to pay a really expensive transfer fee, which, in soccer, transfer fees are humongous for some of these top players. So it'll be interesting. By the way, I don't know if you saw this, but this is neither here nor there, but something interesting to keep under your cap is that Lionel Messi last week closed on a $5 million condo in Sunny Isles right here in Miami Beach. $5 million. So
yeah, but
maybe,
I
maybe
know,
he's
but
planning, not now, but in the future, maybe.
no, I get that. It's just everybody that has money buys a home here. That's the problem with all of that. If you're an actor or an actress, you're an entertainer, you're an athlete, everybody seems to buy some kind of a really nice home here in South Florida so they can live here part-time.
Yeah, that's true. No, and I think actually, to be honest, I think Messi already had a place here. From what I understand, he may have already had a condo, and I think he may have upgraded to a nicer condo. But I know that he visits here regularly, and a lot of the top players in Europe do, which is why they are also interested, to come play here. But they don't want guys who are just going to come to retire. They really do want guys who want to win and who are going to be excited to try to make this team the best team in MLS. So it'll be interesting. I mean, I'm super excited to find out who the heck are they finally going to sign and who's the coach going to be. Again, the names are the same: Marcelo, Gallardo and Patrick Vieira and Santiago Solari. I mean, it's the same names I keep hearing. I'm not hearing anything new, but I'm not in the bargaining. I'm not there. I'm not in the front office, so. We won't really know for sure until we know for sure.
All right. As we get closer to training camp, do we know the practice sites so fans can find out about that because maybe they want to go see their favorite soccer team practice like I do?
Yep. Nope. They don't have the sites yet either. It does not appear that it will be at the University of Miami. That seems pretty secure, but no, I don't know. In fact, I think what they're going to do is do some in South Florida, maybe FAU or something in Palm Beach County, and then maybe do something at IMG in Bradenton, and maybe something even beyond there for a few days. I think there's going to be multiple. I don't think they're just going to be in one place. I think they're going to. My guess is they're going to have part of training camp goes on for about 5 weeks.
Right.
I think part of that time will be in South Florida, and part of that time will be outside of South Florida for the team to bond.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and also for marketing purposes, if you want to go up to Palm Beach, that kind of makes sense. I mean, personally, for me, it'll suck because I got to drive from West Kendall to Palm Beach to go watch them practice. That's going to be one hell of a drive, but I mean, how about the jerseys?
We can carpool together.
Okay.
I live in Coral Gables, so we'll carpool.
I like that. I like that. We can definitely do that. We'll pick up Bill, and we're on our way. What's the latest with the jerseys? When do they come out? Do you know?
The jerseys?
Yeah.
I had also heard that the jersey, the team would like the jersey to come out before Christmas, before Hanukkah. I mean, that would be how, that makes perfect sense. If you enter Miami, don't you want your jersey to be released in time for people to buy it for the holidays? I mean, I think that's, So I know that was their goal. It's their goal is to get Adidas to release this and the league. I think the league has to sign off on it and everything, but I would think it would make perfect sense to do it before Christmas and Hanukkah, which land at the same time this year, and so that people can get that as a holiday gift. It's a perfect holiday gift. Why would you do it in January when everybody's already spent all their money?
Right.
No,
and doesn't training camp start in January?
Yeah. Training camp is going to start in mid-January.
So you want to have those Christmas presents so people are now inspired for training camp and the start of the new year with your new soccer team. All that would be awesome, man. That would be the only present I would want my wife to get me is just get me a kit. Just get me a jersey and I'm good. That's it. Oh,
you're breaking up a little bit. I don't know why. Is it you or me?
Oh, you never know. Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me okay?
You're good? Yeah, I got you. You're good.
Okay.
You're good?
No, you were cutting in and out just at the very end there.
No, I was just saying that that would be the present I would want for Christmas. I would tell my wife, look, just get me an Inter kit and I'm good. That's it. I'm done.
Right. No, I have a list of people too. I mean, my brother, my nephew, I have a list of probably 5 people that would be interested in a jersey. So, if they come out with it, I think they would make a killing before the holidays.
Oh, yeah, they definitely would. I mean, hell, Caneswear, one of our sponsors, they ordered 2,000 jerseys.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, because they know. They know what's coming. They know what's and they want to be in Broward. They want to be the main home for Inter goods. And so that's why they're going to have a spot in their store, even though it's called Caneswear, they're going to have a spot in their store that's dedicated to Inter Miami. How about that? Smart.
No, that makes perfect sense. And plus, the team is going to be based in Fort Lauderdale. Let's face it, it's called Inter Miami, but for the next 2 years, that team is going to be practicing and playing in Fort Lauderdale. So the Fort Lauderdale sporting goods stores and, everybody up there, that's going to be their team for the next 2 years,
Yeah, no, that's right. Sports Authority should take advantage. Oh, I'm sorry, they're not around anymore. Anyway, Michelle, are you sure that they will end up in Miami eventually?
Yes, the plan is still to move to Miami eventually. The plan is not to stay at that site.
No, I know that's the plan.
Here and they're trying to.
I know that's the plan, but what's your gut tell you? What's your gut tell you? Is what I'm saying.
My gut is telling me that it's going to be in Miami. 2022. The next 2 years will be in Fort Lauderdale. After that, the USL team will stay there. The training camp will stay there. The youth academy will still be there at the Fort Lauderdale facility, which is beautiful. And they'll host international clubs and stuff like that. But I still absolutely believe that they're going to be on that site. And if you talk about competing with the Marlins, you're going to practically be able to see one stadium from the other. If they end up at Miami Freedom Park, that stadium is going to be almost you'd be able to almost throw a baseball. David Beckham could probably kick a free kick from one stadium to the other. So that's going to be interesting. Well, they're going to be basically across the 836 from each other.
Except that the fence in front of the goal on the stadium side for Inter will be much stronger. There's really nobody on the other side to stand there for the fence for protecting the goal because nobody goes. See, that's the thing also. Traffic will be all around 37th Avenue. There'll be no traffic on Northwest 12th Street, unfortunately.
Right. Well, we'll see. I mean, I do think it'll step up. I think the Marlins will have to step up. There will be a summer. There will be two big sports teams going on in the summer, and that should be exciting for the city.
I hope so, man. I hope that ends up happening that way. I hope the Marlins wake up and step up and give us a great team to root for, just like Inter's going to do, and make summers really, really interesting down here. That'll be awesome. Michelle, what else are you working on the Herald so Inter fans can stay tuned?
What am I working on? Well, right now I'm actually working on my wish book story. We do the wish book every year around the holidays, and we get nominations of people in the community who could really use help. So that's actually the story I'm writing today. It's due tomorrow morning. So I'm going to have a story on a really wonderful woman who's taking on 5 kids on her own and doing a great job, but she could really use some help. So I went out and spoke to her, and I'm working on that story today. It's not sports. But every year at this time of year, I always pitch in for the wish book story. So that's what I'm working on right now.
You're a class act. That is awesome. I wanted to ask you one more thing that now I'm forgetting.
Were you going to ask me about the UN basketball team?
Yeah. No, well, kind of.
Dropping a 27-point lead,
yes,
but still managing to survive and beat Illinois on the road.
That was great. That was great. But I was going to ask you is, University of Miami's Lonnie Walker last night. I watched him, 28 points, 19 points in the fourth quarter against the Rockets, who play no defense, but it's still awesome. That was fantastic, and I think his time is coming because I think they're going to try to move DeRozan, and it could be the Lonnie Walker show in San Antonio. How about that?
Yeah. Oh, he was unbelievable last night. He was on fire, and, we saw when he was even at UM in the brief time that we got to see him, he definitely had potential. We knew when he got here he was going to be a one and done. But, that's never a guarantee. We thought DeJuan Hernandez was going to be one and done, and he's had a lot of travails. So, Lonnie is really, looking to be as good as advertised. The way he played last night was crazy. I mean, 19 points in the fourth quarter, and he's got all the swag and all the personality and all the confidence in the world. That guy is not lacking in confidence. So yeah, I think his time is coming. I definitely think his time is coming, and any success. And then I don't know if you saw the other day that Shane Larkin broke a Eurobasket League record.
Yes.
Yeah, he had 50 plus. I don't know, 54 points or something. He's playing in Turkey. So Shane Larkin broke the scoring record in the European League, and he's probably, I'm assuming, going to be headed back to the NBA at some point. But every former Miami player who does anything in the NBA is really good for the Miami basketball program, because Jim Larinaga, one of the things he likes to do is to expand these players' games when they get here from high school and prepare them for the NBA. And he's such a good teacher. And his son coaches in the NBA, and he really knows what it takes to make the NBA, and how to hide your weaknesses and how to show off your strengths and capitalize on your strengths. And he's very, very good at that. And every player from former Hurricane, who makes it in the NBA is, that's an endorsement for the basketball program. So I know that Chris Caputo and Jim Larinaga were sitting there last night cheering for Lonnie, because, not only cheering for him because they like him, but also it's a great statement for the program. That one of the players who chose to come here is good enough to go to the NBA, and then they can use that in recruiting. They can say, "Hey, Lonnie Walker, you see this highlight video? Guess where he played college? Guess what jersey he was wearing? He wasn't wearing Duke or Carolina. He was wearing the U." So it's really good. If Lonnie's career were to take off, that would be very good for UM.
Yeah, that was cool last night to watch him do that. And of course, you can follow her on Twitter at Kauf Sports. Hey, before I let you go, you talked about Caputo. Is he kind of the coach in line when Larinaga leaves? Is he the guy, because he gets so much credit for helping develop players in that program? Is he the guy they're kind of targeting? Is that the plan down the line?
Well, I mean, he's definitely, he's highly, highly regarded, and he gets called for jobs, on a regular basis around the country. He's chosen to stick with Coach L. I think for sure. I mean, he's very, very well respected within the department, within, the boosters, the media. I mean, when Coach L can't go to a press conference on the rare occasion, Chris Caputo's the guy who comes in and he's the spokesman. And yeah, he's a great recruiter. He's a really good tactician. He works his tail off, and he's been with Coach L for decades now. I mean, he is learning from one of the best teachers, for decades. So, the day that Coach L decides to not do it anymore, I would think that Chris Caputo would be a natural fit to fill in, because he has the same philosophy. He's learned under the master himself, and he's very highly regarded.
It's an amazing combination, those two guys right there, the way they've been able to do it. It's kind of like Smith and Leonard up in Florida State.
I was just going to say, it's exactly like, Stan has had so many offers to go places, and he's always, now I don't know, I think Chris would like to be a head coach.
Right.
Think Stan really likes to be, Stan actually prefers, I think, to be in the background and to let Leonard be out in front. But those two are a partnership. My God, I mean, they've been together forever.
Yes.
And everywhere you see Leonard Hamilton, there's Stan Jones right next to him. So
always Jones. I said Smith. That's right.
Yeah, Chris Caputo. Yeah, Jones Smith. Similar. But yeah, Chris Caputo and Coach L have been attached at the hip for quite a while now, and he would be a perfect replacement. But Coach L isn't going anywhere anytime soon. He's still got a lot of passion.
Thank the Lord that he's going to stick around, because he is just a blessing for that program. And it's always a blessing to have you every week here on the show. Follow her on Twitter at Kauf Sports. Catch her work at the doorstep. We're, of course, online, herald.com. Michelle, as always, you are the bomb. Thank you for taking some time.
Sure, I'm going to throw in one quick thing.
Yes.
The women, we never get to talk about
I know.
The women are in the top 25 and have been all season. They're number 21, and they played tonight against number 14, Indiana. And they've got, Beatrice Montpremier, who's a candidate for Player of the Year. I just wrote a feature today on their other 6'3" center, freshman, Sydney Roby, Roby. I asked her if she's related to Reggie Roby, and she didn't think so, but I told her to check her family tree because that's not a very common name. But anyway, she's a really interesting freshman whose mom played professional basketball in the WABA in the 80s. So anyway, the women's team is doing very well this year and worth, getting some attention. And they play at 6:00 today. It's always a fun time. The players are super accessible. It's a great family event, for kids and everything. So if you're looking for something to do at 6, the women are worth watching.
Michelle, as always, great stuff, great info. Appreciate it. And we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Sounds good.
You
Thanks.
got it. The great Michelle
All
Kaufman.
right.
Thank you, Michelle. Awesome stuff, as always, here on the program.